What it do, anime crew? Hey man, listen, today I just finished, well, I didn't just finish, but I'll get to that in a minute. Dead Demons, DEDEDEDEstruction, which is a bit of a mouthful of a title. But I finished the anime adaptation, the 17 episode ONA, and then the extra episode 0. Before I even start this, I will say, if you guys want to watch this series for yourself, it is extremely important that you watch the first 16 episodes, and then episode 0, and then episode 17. That's the real watch order. I don't know why they structured it the way they did. It's pretty mind-boggling. It's stupid. It's not conducive to enjoying the show anymore. It was supposed to be like a weird hook thing, but I think the first episode's a great hook, and that is just sort of misleading tonally. But it's whatever. I guess it's not that big of a deal if you don't even watch episode 0 at all. Well, I mean, no, because episode 0 is kind of necessary. Watch it after episode 16, okay? But if you clicked on this video, you've probably already seen the series, and that's not really applicable to you. So I'm just here to talk about it. I finished it a few days ago. I really want to not make a habit out of ranting about these things several days after I finish them. I want to do it day of, but this is just kind of how the cookies crumbled this time. I really, really liked Dead Demons DEDEDEDEstruction. I read an interview that Inio Asano, who's the mangaka who wrote the manga that this is an adaptation of, did. And he was talking about how his most famous work, Oyasumi Punpun, is known to be extremely depressing, cynical, thoughtful, analytical about the world, but in an extremely jaded way. And he said that he used to have a lot of qualms with escapist manga and escapist anime, and he used to think it was all bullshit. But then he watched K-On! And now his perspective's completely different, and he just wants to draw like cute girls doing cute things. Because life is so terrible that he wants to provide an escape for people. And he tried to do that with this story a little bit, but it still ends up absolutely feeling like an Inio Asano story. It still has that trademark cynicism. There's there's overtones of political satire and comedy and apocalyptic anxieties and all these way more serious themes that end up contributing to a more unique tone than I see in a lot of CGDCT shows. It's sort of multifaceted in the sense that there is this growing anxiety, there is this uncertainty, there is this sense of mystery that permeates every scene, but it's not really the focus. However, it's always firmly placed in the background. And it isn't even really a CGDCT show. It's kind of slice of life like half the time, but the other half the time it's pretty directly plot driven. I'd say like maybe 60% of the time it leans more slice of life, and then like 40% of the time you're just going into mystery or action or romance or, any of these things. I mean, I guess, romance could fall into the slice of life category, but the show has a very unique, multifaceted tone, which is the first thing that I really appreciated about it. Outside of that, the color design and background art are really strong overall. A lot of the jokes are snappy. They hit well. They're really good. The satire is really goofy. The character designs are amazing, not only for the main characters, but all of the side characters who are made to look like goofy and stupid in various ways because, in many ways, this is sort of a satire on, like the foolishness of bureaucracy and how humans would probably end up fucking it up if aliens ever did appear above Earth, even when it's completely preventable. There are a lot of connections to be drawn between real life catastrophic events that may be going on just on the other side of the world, and people on the other side of the world from that other side of the world, aka here. That was very poorly worded. Just sort of go on with their lives and try to have a good life and try to be good to other people and try to be good to themselves and just try to live, It's a theme that I think is really important and I think ties back into the ethos behind Inio Asano writing this manga, talking about how the world's such a scary and intimidating place, and that's sort of unending. That's something that he's seemingly potentially resolved to not being able to find many solutions that make him feel better about. So he's just like, hey, listen, just look at these cute girls, and in the context of the show, hey, look at your friends, be good to your friends, be an emotionally good and kind person, be good to yourself, and just try to live an emotionally fulfilling life on a smaller scale, because at the end of the day, it's gigantism. It's the bureaucracy. It's these giant military industrial complexes. It's these massive political spheres and movements that people are so emotionally disconnected from the root of that they sort of get lost in the weeds. It's all of these more giant networks of people that are causing all the problems in modern society, and that are leading to and only becoming more emphasized by the downfall of society from the perspective of Inio Asano, who's just like such a fucking doomer. But he's basically just saying you have to find solace in not these like grand moral ideals or anything like that, but just, emotional fulfillment in the relationships of those with those around you. And that way it's a very criticizable story from an ethical perspective, but that's kind of the point. You have to have a bottom line. The second you start looking at things from like a purely utilitarian or otherwise ethical perspective, things oftentimes start to fall apart, and that's when people just end up going off the deep end and becoming evil, like that one guy who starts going around killing all the aliens for fun. It's really interesting because it's one of those things that's highly critical of humans. Humans are the real monsters, which is always true. But it's also like arguably the biggest dicks in the entire thing were the aliens who sent a colony of themselves over to Earth knowing that they were going to get absolutely genocided, essentially. So, both the humans and the aliens themselves had taken part in genociding that group of thousands and thousands of aliens which descended upon Japan. But it's a really unique story, really unique tonal story with good comedy, good slice of life bits, a compelling narrative. The mystery was really kicking into overdrive around, I think like episode 7, 8, that sort of area. They pick back up towards the end as well. I felt that at times it got a little edgy and doomer for my tastes, but I always felt that was extremely thematically relevant and that they were setting something up, and that it was just more so an issue of the texture of it that I didn't personally enjoy as much. It's definitely a story that does the spoiler alert, it does the time loop thing, and it does it in a way that sort of just explores like the whole thing about the time loop thing, which is something I've been thinking about since I watched the rehearsal with Nathan Fielder, is that being able to access a time loop is essentially just playing God, because you can run the situation over and over and over again until you like get rid of all the variables. It's like you can go and redo something because you didn't fully know, you weren't fully in control, you didn't fully know what would happen if you did something, and it's sort of an excuse to be able to manipulate the world into whatever you want within reason, because you can just keep retrying until you get the thing you want. And in that way, it paints a moral picture that is really difficult to parse, because it's like whenever you get into the issue of multiple realities, morality kind of becomes pointless, I guess. Like, it's like, okay, there is a reality that exists in which you do this, and then there's a reality that exists in which you don't do this, and both of them are going to have consequences on the members of those separate realities, and it's going to overall add up to a net neutral at the end of the day. And it just introduces all of these fairly confusing sci-fi concepts that seek to sort of all make this grander narrative of the alien invasion, especially as it's unfolding, so much more difficult to follow. It's still intriguing, and it's not like you just have no idea what's going on, but it's supposed to be hard to understand. It's supposed to be something that isn't as worthwhile to wrap your head around as the heartfelt nature of the character dynamics. And it's a show that's really interesting to me for that ethos. I think it's really interesting that Inio Asano has this giant rain cloud covering up the sun, hanging over his head all the time, and that he's just trying to focus on his friends, even if that makes him crazy in the eyes of other people. It's really interesting. I really like the character designs, the color palette. I thought the production was overall really, really solid. There were a couple like goofy scenes with like CG groups of aliens, but it's like, at the end of the day, it's such a nitpick. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I give it 1 million out of 1 million or something.